The restaurant was James's choice, of course. It always was. The Serafina floated atop the city, a constellation of crystal and muted laughter on the 54th floor. From their table by the window, the world below was a tapestry of distant glittering lights, a kingdom James felt he had conquered and now generously shared with her. "Isn't it breathtaking, Chloe?" he asked, his hand covering hers on the starched white linen. His touch was warm, possessive. It was the same touch that had once made her feel cherished, protected. Now it often felt like a brand. "It's beautiful, James." "Truly," she replied, offering a smile she hoped reached her eyes. He beamed, that brilliant movie star smile that had first captivated her. "Only the best for my girl on our 5th anniversary." Their life was a gallery of the best. The best apartment, the best car, the best vacations. All curated by James, all paid for by James. Chloe had once been a promising graphic designer, with a vibrant portfolio and a small but growing list of clients. But James had called her work a cute hobby. He had insisted, with that gentle, unyielding logic of his, that she didn't need the stress. "Let me take care of you," he'd said. And in the first blush of love, she had let him. She had traded her independence for a gilded cage, and for a long time, the gold had been dazzling enough to blind her. The rules of their marriage were unspoken but rigid. He handled the money. All of it. She received a generous allowance transferred to her account on the 1st of every month, enough for shopping, lunches with the few friends she still kept, and maintaining the flawless appearance he expected. But she had no access to their real wealth, no joint accounts, no credit cards in her name linked to his business. And certainly, under no circumstances, was she to touch his personal wallet or his primary credit card, a sleek black card he called his Excalibur. "It's not about trust, darling," he'd explained once when she'd playfully reached for his wallet to pay for coffee. His voice had been light, but his eyes were hard. "It's about order. I handle the finances, you handle the home. It's a partnership, a perfect system." Chloe had learned not to question the system. Tonight, at the Serafina, the system was in full effect. James ordered the wine, a vintage that cost more than her monthly allowance, without consulting the price. He selected their appetizers, entrees, and then leaned back, the picture of a man in complete control. "To 5 years," he said, raising his glass. "And to 50 more. Just like this." Chloe clinked her glass against his, the crystal ringing a pure, high note that felt achingly false. "To 50 more." Just as their main courses arrived, seared scallops for her, a massive steak for him, his phone buzzed with a specific, insistent vibration. He glanced at the screen, and his expression tightened. "Apologies, darling. It's Tokyo. I have to take this." He dabbed his lips with his napkin and stood. "I'll be right back. Don't let your food get cold." He leaned down to kiss her cheek, his cologne a familiar, cloying scent of sandalwood and power. Then he walked away, his phone already pressed to his ear, his voice dropping into the low, commanding tone he used for business. Chloe watched him go, a familiar knot tightening in her stomach. She was alone at the most expensive table in the most exclusive restaurant in the city, with a meal she hadn't chosen and a life she felt was no longer her own. Her gaze drifted to his chair, where his suit jacket was draped over the back. The corner of his wallet was just visible in the inner pocket. The forbidden Excalibur was in there, a symbol of the invisible wall between them. She ate her scallops slowly, making them last. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The restaurant was beginning to thin out. Her plate was cleared away and a dessert menu was offered. She politely declined. James was still gone. She could see him occasionally through the glass doors of a private room near the lobby, pacing, gesticulating, deep in his world of mergers and acquisitions. A new waiter, one she hadn't seen before, approached her table. He was older, with kind eyes and a gentle stoop to his shoulders. "Your husband was delayed, madam. He asked that I bring you the bill," the waiter said softly. He placed a small leather-bound folder on the table. Chloe's heart began to pound. James had never done this before. He was meticulous, almost pathologically so, about paying the bill himself. It was part of the performance. "Oh," she said, her voice small. "He did?" "Yes. He said you would handle it." The waiter gave her a small, sympathetic smile. This was a test. It had to be. A strange, cruel anniversary test. She looked toward the private room, but James was no longer there. Where had he gone? Her phone was in her purse, but there were no messages from him. Panic began to set in. The bill in that folder would be astronomical. Her allowance was gone for the month, and the debit card for her personal account would be declined in a spectacularly humiliating fashion. Her only option was the one thing she was forbidden to do. Her hands trembled as she reached across the table and slipped James's jacket off the chair. Her fingers fumbled with the inner pocket, closing around the cool, hard leather of his wallet. She pulled it out, her guilt so sharp it felt like a physical pain. Inside, nestled in its slot, was the black card, his Excalibur. Taking a deep breath, she placed the card into the leather folder the waiter had left. She felt like a thief, a child breaking the most sacred of rules. A few moments later, the same kind-eyed waiter returned. He picked up the folder, opened it, and looked at the card. He didn't move. He simply stood there, staring at the name on the card. Then, he lifted his gaze and looked directly at her. The sympathetic smile was gone, replaced by something she couldn't quite read. It was a look of recognition, but one laced with a deep, profound sadness. "Thank you, Mrs. Gable," he said, his voice quiet but clear, cutting through the low hum of the restaurant. Except her name wasn't Gable. Her married name was Thorne. Gable had been her maiden name. "The manager will be right with you, Chloe." The name hung in the air between them, an invisible, shimmering wall. Gable. It was a ghost on her tongue, a name she hadn't written or spoken in 5 years. It belonged to a different woman, a younger woman with paint-stained fingers and a messy apartment, a woman who dreamed in color and code. Mrs. Thorne, James's wife, did not have dreams. She had appointments. I don't understand," Chloe whispered, her voice barely audible. "My name is Thorne." The waiter, the kind-eyed man, simply gave a slow, deliberate nod, as if confirming a secret she hadn't known she was keeping. He slid the leather folder shut, with James's black card still inside, and turned, leaving her at the table. He didn't take the bill. He didn't take the card. He just left. Chloe's mind raced, a frantic scramble for a logical explanation. It was a mistake, a coincidence. There was another Chloe Gable who had dined there, perhaps. But the waiter had called her by her first name, too. He had looked right at her. And James's disappearance was no coincidence. Her first instinct was to run after him, to demand an explanation. But her legs felt rooted to the floor. A moment later, a different man approached. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit, with silver hair and an air of quiet authority. This was clearly the manager. "Ms. Gable," he said, his voice low and calm. He did not smile. "I am Andrew Harrison, the general manager. Please, don't be alarmed." "Where is my husband?" Chloe asked, the words coming out sharper than she intended. "What is happening?" Mr. Harrison gestured to the leather folder. "Your husband is not here. In fact, he was never here tonight." Chloe stared at him, bewildered. "What are you talking about? He sat right there. We had dinner. He left to take a call." Her voice trailed off as the absurdity of her own words hit her. Was she going mad? Had she imagined the entire evening? "The reservation for this table was made 2 weeks ago under your name. Your maiden name," Mr. Harrison continued, his gaze steady and unwavering. "It was prepaid, including a substantial gratuity for the staff. We were given specific instructions. We were told to play along if a Mr. James Thorne accompanied you. We were to wait until he left the table, and then we were to present you with the bill and prompt you to use his card." Every word was a hammer blow, dismantling the reality she thought she knew. This entire evening, their anniversary dinner, had been a charade, a meticulously planned performance, and she was the only one who didn't have the script. "Why?" she breathed, the room feeling like it was tilting on its axis. "Who would do this?" "The person who made the reservation," he said simply. He slid the leather folder across the table toward her. "He did not want us to run the card. He just wanted to be sure you had it." Then, from his inside pocket, he produced a simple, plain white envelope. It was thick, heavy. "This was also left for you." Chloe's hands trembled as she took it. Her name, Chloe Gable, was written on the front in a strong, familiar script that struck a chord deep in her memory. She tore it open. Inside, there was no letter. There was a key card for a hotel, the Alistair, a respectable but unassuming establishment in the city's heart. And beneath it, a small, folded note. She unfolded the note, and all the air left her lungs. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was looping and slightly impatient, the T's crossed with a decisive slash. It was her father's handwriting. Her father, who had died from a sudden heart attack 6 years ago. The note contained only 5 words. "Your emergency exit, I'm sorry." Chloe's head swam. It was impossible. A cruel, elaborate joke. But the handwriting? It was perfect. It was his. Her father had been a cautious man, a planner. He'd worked in risk assessment for an insurance company. He had always told her, "Hope for the best, but plan for the worst, Chloe girl. Always have an escape route." When she had announced her engagement to James, a man who seemed too polished, too perfect, her father had been polite, but distant. He had died just 3 months later, never seeing her walk down the aisle. She looked at Mr. Harrison, her eyes wide with 1,000 questions. "Our instructions are fulfilled, Ms. Gable," he said, his tone softening slightly. "The rest is up to you. I would suggest you leave, now." Numbly, she stood up. She slid the hotel key and the impossible note back into the envelope. She reached for James's jacket, slipping it on over her dress. It was too large, smelling of his expensive cologne, but the wallet in the pocket felt like the only real thing in the world. She left her own purse, her own phone, her own life, sitting on the chair. As she walked toward the restaurant's entrance, she passed the kind-eyed waiter who had started it all. He met her gaze and gave her the smallest, almost imperceptible nod of encouragement. Chloe stepped into the elevator, the doors hissing shut, and began her descent from the glittering fantasy in the sky. She wasn't Mrs. Thorne anymore. She was Chloe Gable, and she was following the ghost of her father into an unknown future. The elevator descended in unnerving silence, a glass box sliding down the spine of the skyscraper. Chloe watched the city lights rush upwards to meet her, the glitter that had seemed so beautiful from above now looking frantic and cold. She clutched the lapels of James's jacket, the expensive wool a strange comfort against her chilled skin. It still held his scent, a ghost of the man she thought she knew, the man who, according to the manager, had never even been there tonight. Was this an elaborate prank? A punishment for some unknown transgression? Or was it something else entirely? The note in her pocket felt heavy, like a stone. "Your emergency exit. I'm sorry." Her father's handwriting was an anchor in a sea of madness. She had mourned him, grieved him, built a shrine to his memory in her heart. To see his familiar script on a note connected to this bizarre theatrical escape was like seeing a ghost in broad daylight. She exited into the lobby, a cavern of marble and hushed reverence. The doorman, a man who had always greeted her with a deferential "Mrs. Thorne," now looked at her with a blank, professional gaze as she walked past him and onto the street. The air was cool, filled with the sounds of distant sirens and the rumble of the living city. She hailed a taxi, the first one she saw, and slid into the back seat. "Where to, lady?" the driver asked, his eyes meeting hers in the rearview mirror. For a second, she blanked. The address of the gilded cage she shared with James was on the tip of her tongue, a conditioned response. She swallowed it down. "The Alistair Hotel, please." The driver nodded and the taxi pulled into the stream of traffic. They drove away from the opulent towers and into the city's heart, where the buildings were older, more modest, their lights softer and more welcoming. Chloe stared out the window, her reflection a pale, translucent mask against the moving cityscape. She was a ghost of a different sort now, a woman untethered from her own life. She reached into the jacket pocket, her fingers closing around James's wallet. She pulled it out and opened it. There they were. His credit cards, his driver's license with a photo where he wasn't smiling, and a folded-up stack of cash. Hundreds. Thousands. She felt a surge of dizzying, terrifying power. This wallet, this Excalibur he had guarded so jealously, was the one thing he believed gave him control over everything. And now she had it. The Alistair Hotel was just as she had pictured it. Clean, understated, and utterly anonymous. It had none of the soaring ambition of the places James favored. Its lobby was warm and carpeted, with soft lighting and an air of quiet discretion. This was a place for people who didn't want to be seen. Chloe walked to the front desk, her heart pounding a nervous rhythm against her ribs. She held out the keycard the manager had given her. "I believe a room was left for me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The clerk, a young woman with a calm demeanor, took the key without a word. She typed something into her computer, her expression unchanging. "Yes, Ms. Gable. Room 714. It's all taken care of. The elevator is just to your right. Ms. Gable." Hearing it again sent another shockwave through her. It was real. This was all real. The ride up to the 7th floor was the longest of her life. She was acutely aware of the faint scent of lemon polish and the soft hum of the elevator car. What was she walking into? Was someone waiting for her? A friend of her father's? A lawyer? A threat? The keycard worked. The lock clicked open with a soft electronic beep. She pushed the door open into a dark room and fumbled for a light switch. The room was standard, impersonal. A queen-sized bed with a crisp white duvet, A small desk, a television bolted to the wall. It was the kind of room that held no memories. On the desk, illuminated by the city lights filtering through the window, sat a sleek silver laptop and a simple black burner phone. The laptop was open. Chloe approached it as if it were a venomous snake. The screen was bright, displaying a simple desktop. There were no icons, no files, except for a single video file in the center of the screen. The file was titled, "For Chloe." Her hand trembled as she moved her finger to the trackpad. She clicked it. The video opened, and the face that filled the screen stole her breath. It was her father. He looked older, thinner, his hair almost completely gray. There were deep lines around his eyes she'd never seen before. He was sitting in what looked like a small, plain office. But it was him. Alive. His eyes, the same warm, intelligent eyes she had inherited, looked directly at the camera with an aching intensity. "Hello, Chloe girl," he began, his voice raspy, thick with an emotion he was struggling to contain. "If you're watching this, it means two things. First, that I am so sorry. And second, that it worked. You're out." Tears streamed down Chloe's face, hot and silent. She didn't make a sound, her entire being focused on the impossible man on the screen. "I don't have much time to explain," he continued, glancing off camera for a moment. "I didn't have a heart attack 6 years ago. I had to disappear. I found out something about James, about his business. It wasn't just finance, Chloe, it was dirty. Dangerous people, dangerous money. I tried to warn you, but you were in love. And I knew he would never let you go. If I had fought him openly, he would have hurt you to hurt me." He leaned closer to the camera, his expression pleading. "So, I made a plan. The only plan I could think of. I built you an escape route, but the timing had to be perfect. I had to wait until his world was about to fall apart. And that time is now. In the next 48 hours, his company, his life, everything he built, is going to be seized by federal investigators who have been building a case for years. When that happens, he will be a desperate man, a cornered animal. I couldn't let you be in that corner with him." He took a shaky breath. "The man at the restaurant, Andrew Harrison, is an old and trusted friend. He owed me a favor." He set the stage. "The money in James's wallet will get you started. The phone next to that laptop is clean. In its contacts, there is one number listed as driver. When you are ready, call it. It will take you to the next step. There's a new life waiting for you, Chloe. A chance to be the woman I always knew you were, not the beautiful doll he put on a shelf." His eyes were wet now. "I know this is a shock. It's a terrible, selfish thing for a father to do. But I never stopped watching you. I never stopped loving you. Now you have to be strong. Leave your old life behind. Don't contact anyone from it. It's over. Go, Chloe girl, be free." The video ended. The screen went black, leaving only her own reflection, a ghostly image of a woman weeping in a silent hotel room. Her father was alive. Her marriage was a prison. Her freedom had been bought with a lie of unimaginable proportions. She collapsed onto the floor, the sobs she had been holding back finally breaking free. A storm of grief and shock, and a tiny, terrifying flicker of hope. For an hour, or maybe it was a lifetime, Chloe lay on the floor of the anonymous hotel room, adrift in the wreckage of her life. The tears eventually subsided, leaving behind a hollow, ringing silence. Her father was alive. That one impossible fact was a lighthouse in the storm. It was a truth so powerful it burned away everything else. The 5 years of her marriage, the glittering parties, the suffocating politeness, the man she had called her husband, James. The thought of him now brought not sadness, but a cold, sharp clarity. His control, his rules, his perfect system, it had all been a cage designed to keep her docile and ignorant. He hadn't just taken her career, he had taken her name, her past, her very identity, and replaced it with a hollow, beautiful shell. The revelation didn't just break her heart, it set her free. Slowly, shakily, she pushed herself up. Her reflection in the dark television screen showed a woman she barely recognized. Her mascara was smeared, her hair disheveled, and she was swimming in a man's suit jacket. But her eyes were different. The polite, vacant look of Mrs. Thorne was gone. In its place was the fierce, determined gaze of Chloe Gable. She walked to the desk. The burner phone felt cool and solid in her hand. The laptop contained the last image of her father she had. A ghost in a machine, but a ghost who had reached across time and space to save her. She would not let him down. She powered on the phone. As he'd said, there was only one contact. Driver. Her finger hovered over the call button. This was the final step off the ledge. There was no going back. Taking one last, steadying breath, she pressed the button. It rang only once. "Yes," a man's voice answered. It was calm and professional. "I'm ready," Chloe said, her own voice surprisingly firm. "Walk out the main entrance of the hotel. Turn right. A black sedan will be waiting at the corner. The back door will be open." The line went dead. Chloe didn't hesitate. She closed the laptop and slid it into a simple black bag she found in the room's closet. The phone and James's wallet went in beside it. She took one last look around the sterile room that had served as the gateway to her new life, then walked out, leaving the hotel key on the desk. The city night was the same, but she moved through it differently. She was no longer a passenger in her own life. Every step was a conscious choice. Just as the voice on the phone had promised, a black sedan was idling at the corner, its engine a low, patient hum. The back door was slightly ajar. She slid inside, pulling the door shut behind her. The man in the driver's seat turned to look at her, and her breath caught in her throat. It was the waiter from the restaurant, the man with the kind, sad eyes. "Hello, Chloe," he said, his voice the same gentle tone as before. "My name is Arthur. Your father and I go way back." "You were the waiter," she whispered, her mind piecing it together. "Andrew, the manager, is a good man, but he's a businessman. Your father needed someone on the inside, someone who could see you, speak to you directly, someone to make sure you were okay." He gave her a small, reassuring smile in the rearview mirror. "Your father's plan had many contingencies, but it all depended on you, on your courage to take that first step." He put the car in gear and pulled smoothly into traffic. "He never stopped watching over you, you know. He has photos of you from every year. He worried constantly. He called you his caged bird." The words sent a fresh wave of emotion through Chloe, but this time it was not grief. It was a profound, aching love for the father who had sacrificed everything for her. They drove for nearly an hour, leaving the city's glow behind them, moving through quiet suburban streets until they reached a small, private airfield. A single, sleek jet sat on the tarmac, its lights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. Arthur parked the car and turned to her. He handed her a thick manila envelope. "This is the last piece. Everything you need is in here." Chloe's fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a passport with her picture but a new name, Anna Gilbert. There was a driver's license to match, a new social security card, and a deed to a small cottage in a coastal town in Oregon she'd never heard of. There was also a bank book, showing a balance that made her gasp, more money than she could have imagined. The proceeds, she now realized, from her father's death and his life insurance policy. At the very bottom was another handwritten note, this one longer, the paper soft from being folded and unfolded many times. "My dearest Chloe girl, if you're reading this, you are on your way. I hope you can one day forgive me for the deception. I wanted to protect you, but I had to let you find your own strength. James chose you because you were bright and talented, but he sought to dim your light so his could shine brighter. Don't ever let anyone do that to you again. The house is quiet. It's near the ocean. I always remembered how much you loved the sea. There's a small studio space with a wonderful view of the water. Maybe you'll find the desire to paint again. Maybe you'll design something beautiful. Or maybe you'll just sit and watch the waves. Whatever you do, it will be your choice. Entirely yours. I cannot come to you yet. It is not safe. They will be looking for anyone connected to me. But one day, the storm will pass. Until then, know that your father is proud of you. You are brave, you are brilliant, and you are finally free. All my love. Forever." Dad. Chloe folded the letter, clutching it to her chest. She looked at Arthur, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you," she said, the words encompassing everything, the rescue, the kindness, the future. "Your father is a good man," Arthur said softly. "Go make him proud." She stepped out of the car and walked across the tarmac towards the waiting jet. With each step, she could feel the weight of the last 5 years falling away. She was not running away from a life. She was walking toward one. As she climbed the steps and the cabin door closed, she didn't look back. She looked forward to the dawn that was just beginning to break on the horizon. The story of Chloe Gable is a reminder that sometimes the cages we are in are not made of iron bars, but of comforting lies and gilded promises. It is a testament to the fact that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Her journey was not just about escape, but about rediscovering the person she was always meant to be. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need a message of hope.